Bonjour, hello and welcome to stage 5 of the Tour de France Virtual. It is La Reine stage today, the Queen stage of the race that takes us up the mighty slopes of Mont Ventoux, and alongside me for the ride as ever is Hannah Walker. But first, let's have a quick look at the situation at the top of the general classification. The yellow jersey is still on the shoulders of Team Tibco Valley. Drops are there in second position, and it will be the 19-year-old Australian Sarah Gigante who wears that jersey today on the epic slopes of this famous climb. The green jersey is currently being led by Canyon Schramm with a healthy 203 points ahead of Team Tibco, and wearing that jersey today will be the former Polish champion Kasia Niewiadoma herself, an excellent climber who will, I think, revel in this sort of terrain. Moving along to the Queen of the Mountains. Well, look at drops. They've had an absolutely astonishing virtual Tour de France so far. They lead that classification with 40 points, and it will be Joss Loudon who wears that jersey today on the slopes of Mont Ventoux up to the finish line here at Chalet Reynard. And moving on to the final classification, it is the Classement Maillot Blanc, the best young rider. And look at that, it's very tight at the top, lot to play for today, but it is Drops who will wear that jersey, and it's Phineas Smeekel who will take that jersey on to the mountain today. It's going to be an absolute stonker of a stage. The women have already started. This is a little bit of an overview in relation to how the yellow jersey is won. It's a points-based system, not done on time at all. The first 25 riders to cross the line will score points for their team, so the team that can get the most riders in the top 25 have, of course, a better chance of being up there at the end. The same can be said for the green jersey. The Maillot Vert, points are scored on the finish line, the first 10, and intermediate sprints en route as well for the first 10 riders. And the team, again, that amasses the most points wears that jersey. It's currently in the team Canyon Schramm at the moment, and the polka dot jersey. This is the day for the climbers, and I think a lot could change. Today is a first category climb. We've only had third category climbs so far in this race, but today it's a Cat 1, 20 points on offer on the finish line here at Chalet Reynard. And you can follow all of the race, not just by watching. If you go to Zwift.com/raceview, you can get a load more metrics to look at, really drill down into what's happening in relation to the teams and the riders. And without further ado, Hannah, I'm so looking forward to this. Both of us have ridden this, haven't we? We got a cheeky preview the other day. My legs are still hurting from just riding up it. But today, it's going to be a humdinger, isn't it?
It's going to be one of the hardest stages of this tour. It's not called the Queen stage for nothing. It's going to be a real solid stage, and teams have brought in their specialist climbers for this. But yeah, it's going to be fireworks on that climb. Some really great riders lining up today. Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig, Ashley Mulman-Patio, Olympic champion Anna van der Breggen. I mean, it really is who's who, and young Ella Harris in the mix there as well. I think this could be a stage to suit her too. So it's certainly going to be fireworks.
It certainly is. They've got a run-in of about 8 kilometres as we look at the teams riding. There we go, Leah Dixon, Lauren Stevens and Gigante. Gigante will be on yellow, that's Team Tibco. The other teams just rolling through. Team 2020 Rally, Drops. 2 stage wins so far this race for the British team. Joss Loudon in polka dots. FDJ, watch out, of course, for Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig. She will love this stage. Strong team from somewhere. Trek Segafredo with Lizzie Digden, the former world champion. This field is stacked. Kirsten Ville there, the former world champion too. Although it might be a little bit of a tough ask for her today. Not a pure climate, but WNT have been really aggressive so far in the race, and this is the profile today. This is what the riders face. As you can see, a bit of a flat running. We have an intermediate sprint at just under 7k. A rather cruel third category climb at 10k, just under 11k, and then the slopes of Mont Ventoux beckon, and it just gets harder and harder and harder. The average gradient just over 8%. The average gradient for the whole stage, which puts into perspective the climb, Hannah, is 4%, and that includes that flat running. It just shows what the riders are going to face today. Brutal.
Yeah, we spoke about this before the stage, didn't we? Of just, constantly the stage is just going up, even if it doesn't feel like it or doesn't look on the profile or, visually. It's constantly. Oh, we're hearing Seb PK from Radio Tour.
Femme, l'étape reine de ce tour, située en France et tout en ascension. 22,9 km à parcourir aujourd'hui pour les concurrentes représentant 16 équipes. Hello and welcome on Radio Tour for stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France, the Queen stage of the Tour, situated in France and going uphill. 22.9 kilometers of racing today for the riders representing 16
Thank you very much indeed. Seb Piquet, always great to hear his dulcet tones. And he is the man who is essentially the voice of the Tour de France, IRL, in real life as well. Great to have him on board here for the Tour. There is where the riders are already. They started about 10 minutes ago, or 12 minutes ago to be exact. And that little triangle in the bottom right of your screen, that is the point that they're at so far on the race. They've passed through the first intermediate sprint, and now they've got this little climb, which is very, very cruel. It's about 3 kilometers in length. They go through that, but there's no flat at all as we look at the yellow jersey wearer, Sarah Gigante, only 19 years of age, already a former Australian road race champion at senior level. She really is a classy rider. And how Hannah, do you think she'll go today? Because we know how well she climbs, but looking at the field, it is stacked quite literally with some of the finest climbers in the world.
Yeah, it is stacked, but I think Sarah Gigante, has a great engine. She's a great time trialist as well. She's the current Australian time trial champion, and I remember seeing when she won the Australian road race champ, she rode away from the field and she stayed away, and she beat some great names. In the, as we know, the Australians are very, very strong on the women's side, and I think Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank have been having a superb virtual Tour de France, and I think she will be able to stay with the leaders up there. I think it's more about just making sure you save as much as possible for the main climb, but I think having the yellow jersey on your shoulders gives you huge confidence as well, and seeing how well the team as a whole has been doing.
No, definitely. They have been stellar so far, of course. They've taken the stage win. Lauren Stevens won stage 2 of this race. As we look at Katerina Nuyadoma, she really is one of the best road riders in the world. She'll like this climb. Of course, she is the winner last year of Amstel Gold, likes the short and punchy climbs, but this is completely different. This is a really long, drawn-out affair. And we've both ridden it at varying paces, nowhere near as quick as these guys are going to go today, Hannah. But just describe what the climb is like and what sort of physiological effort it's going to take today. I mean, I'll throw my half pennies in worth. It's about pacing yourself, isn't it? You need to pace it, so you cannot put yourself into the red too early.
No, you're completely right. It's as soon as you get onto this Petit KOM, which we're on to, it's just goes up and it doesn't stop. There's a few parts in the course that it looks like it flattens out visually, but you're still climbing at 8%. So it's also physically it's very, very demanding and hard, but it's also your mental strength is very important on this stage, about keeping yourself mentally strong and positive as well. So yeah, it's going to be all the demands are going to need to be met today.
They certainly are. There's a big attack earlier on from one of the riders from FDJ, Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope. It is Brodie Chapman from Australia, 29 years of age, former winner of the Tour of the Gila and the overall in the women's Herald Sun Tour. So going very, very early on. Now, big power here. This is a very interesting attack. I thought, Hannah, we might see some of these riders maybe sprinting for these points, but to go so early, she's got a gap of 17 seconds. This is a very, very bold move. But what it does, it means that Cecile Uttrup-Ludwig can just sit in the wheels and float around, doesn't it? Yeah,
superb effort by Brodie Chapman. She's, really come on in recent years, and she's actually one of the riders I highlighted to watch today because of her strength. She's a great climber. She's a great time trialist as well. Very, very strong indeed. And if you just look at the time gap that she's got so far already, she's already opened that up to 19 seconds. But as you say, this is perfect for Cecile Uttrup-Ludwig. Really setting it up her well up for today, and it's forcing another rider to chase from a different team.
It certainly is. Well, it's Sarah Gigante. Smeekel now has just put a little bit of an attack in. Smeekel, who's wearing the best young rider, I think she just rolled across the line in second place. They're scoring more points for drops. They are the team leading the Queen of the Mountains. So to get second and third on that climb, although it's only a small climb, it's another few points towards their tally. They'll now be opening up that lead. Ceratizet WNT, who was second in the Queen of the Mountain, didn't score any points there. So that's very, very good riding. But now after that climb, a little bit of a flurry of attacks. I think we're going to see this race settling into a kind of rhythm, because from now on in, this is relentless, isn't it? The gradient, probably about 6 or 7% on this particular section, and then it just gets steeper and steeper and steeper, and it's brutal near the top. It almost seems as if you're not even moving.
Yeah, it does, and that's how I felt yesterday when I was doing a recon. I just felt like I was not moving at all. But we're already seeing, big splits in this peloton now. There's, gaps opening all over the place. The gap to Brodie Chapman has started to close in. She's only got a 10-second gap now. Caroline Canuel of Bowles Dolmans is leading that chase. But it does mean, it's more of a race where riders are going to start to go out the back as opposed to many riders going off the front. It's trying to stay in this front group for as long as possible.
It certainly is. You can just see Cassie Nieuwendomer. There's the gradient on the bottom right of your screen. That indicates the steepness, the severity of the gradient on the climb. That obviously changes, it ebbs and flows as we get confirmation. Chapman takes maximum points there ahead of Smeakel and Loudon. Drops scoring 3 points. They will now have 43 points to take in to tomorrow's stage. But we do have maximum points on the top of this climb today. We don't go all the way to the top of Mont Ventoux. We go to Chalet Reynard, but believe you me, that is bad enough. I do keep saying that I've actually ridden it. I feel quite proud, actually. I took about an hour and 18 minutes to ride it. Now, the record on Strava is actually set by Lauren Stevens. She's done this in 1 hour, 8 minutes. And the record for the men is 53 minutes 27 from Nico Roach. That was this week. As we look at Phineas Smeakel of drops, I mean, it's worth dwelling a little bit about the way drops have ridden this race, isn't it? I mean, they have really performed, out of their skin. 2 stage wins. I mean, they must be absolutely delighted as we see a big move going clear now by Danny Christmas.
Yeah, drops have performed fantastically, and they really have gone above and beyond the way that they've performed. And I think they had success on stage 1, and I think that success has bred throughout the whole virtual Tour de France, and all of them have just gone in with so much confidence, gone in with sort of no pressure almost, and ended up performing so well, taking 2 stages. They're leading that Queen of the Mountains jersey. They've got the Young Riders jersey with Phineas Smeakel, and I think they're really taking it to some of the big teams and the World Tour teams.
They certainly are. Well, it's another British rider here. Look at the effort there of Daniela Christmas. Still got a long way to go. Still 10 kilometres all uphill. 12 Ks under the wheels. But look at that. The shoulders rocking from side to side. I do love these pictures. They really give us this wonderful impression on the way these riders are suffering. She's putting out around 250 watts. Just looking at her body language and the way she's breathing there as the road hits 9%. She is now, Hannah, without a shadow of a doubt, she's riding at or near, well, she's at threshold now, isn't she?
Yeah, she certainly is. I mean, she's got to start to ride within herself as well, and not force herself to go into the red and sort of almost blow up. And when, because she is a fantastic climber, and she has been doing a lot of virtual racing recently, so she just maybe wants to test everything, force other teams to chase. But you've got to ride within yourself and sort of not put your body under too much pressure that you can't actually recover from that effort.
There are a few sections on the climb where the gradient lessens a little bit. This plateau opportunity to recover. And as you quite eloquently put there, Hannah, if you overcook it, you put yourself into the red. There's nowhere where you can actually recover at all, apart from maybe using a power-up. Now, the featherweight power-up is the one you're going to really want on this climb, but because it's so long, it's where do you use it? Do you use it if it's a sprint finish, or do you use it earlier down the climb? The featherweight power-up basically makes you 9.5 kilograms lighter for 15 seconds. But given the severity of this climb, the length of the effort, I think today power-ups are going to play a little bit less of a role today, because this is all about power, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is, and as you say, with it only lasting for 15 seconds, I think where that power up will come into its own is actually at the finish. If we have a few riders, I don't think it's going to be a bunch sprint or a big group going for the finish. I think that's where the power up will come into its own.
Certainly will. Well, Leah Dixon just sat in the middle of the group there. Another picture of Lauren Stevens, already a stage winner in this race, the Tibco rider. Very, very experienced, great climber. I think, is that the front door? With the front door open? I think that might be the front. It's somewhere in the house, maybe the back door, I'm not too sure. So
Optimum,
clearly with a relative there.
Optimum fanish there. You shouldn't need a fan, you just open the door and you're in the great outdoors. Hopefully it's a headwind, so keeping the core body temperature cool as well.
Indeed. Well, it's Kristen Faulkner, another one of the stellar lineup for Team Tibco. Leah Dixon, Lauren Stevens and Kristen Faulkner, Sarah Gigante. They have a very, very strong squad. Of course, they're in the jersey. And they've got all of their riders at the moment in this front group, as a little burrito is dropped in the centre there. Nice little cheeky burritos being dropped. That means they remain. Lauren Stevens launches one. That's very, very interesting indeed. When a rider drops the power up, the burrito power up, it means they are undraftable for 10 seconds. So that means nobody could get off the wheel. Big acceleration as Danny Christmas still leads. Good lead here though, Hannah, 22 seconds. That's some ride by the British rider. But it just begs the question, how long can she sustain this effort? As Chapman is still out there as well. But Lauren Stevens looks as if she's made a bit of a move early on.
Yeah, this is an incredible effort by Danny Christmas. You just look at her watts per kilogram on the right-hand side. She's really going well for this. And just now you can see how much this effort is taken out of her. This is a real solid effort from Danny Christmas, former runner. She used to be on the programme with Kelly Holmes, her talent, up-and-coming running talent. But she looks like she's getting into a nice rhythm though, Matt. She's settling down.
She does. She's settling down on rather steep parts here. She's got quite a nice cadence as well. She doesn't look to be laboured. You can just see, well, it's 60 RPM. Generally when riders do ride on climbs, the RPM does drop a little bit. So on the left-hand side, the bottom left, that's the power that she's putting out. Then the RPM, she's not showing us her heart rate, but I imagine that'd be very, very high. And there is the speed. So although it looks as if she's just easing up here out of the saddle and dropping it back, this is, look at the gradient, 13%. Very, very nasty indeed, but the gap is coming down. It's now 15 seconds to Lauren Stevens. And I'm wondering what that move was all about. Was she just testing her legs? Because she's definitely eased up here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just saw how relaxed she was there. She's, taking a drink, getting some hydration on board. But, I know some riders, they like to sort of make an effort early on in the race just to open up the lungs, open up open up the legs, and just to sort of get themselves into that race zone. Many of these riders, obviously they haven't raced in real life for such a long time. It's just opening up the body, I think. And her time gaps are coming down very, very rapidly.
Well, the thing is, when you do attack off the front like that and you do decide to ease up, that little period in between you easing up and being caught, that does allow you to get a little bit of a respite. She was out of the saddle, stretching her back, making sure she was fully hydrated. There's the stats of the yellow jersey, Sarah Gigante. This group's starting to thin out now, but all of the main riders you'd expect to be at or near the head of affairs here are there. Kristen Faulkner, Ella Harris, all back together now. We have a group of around 20 riders or so. It is thinned out from front to back, but they're all within the same group, as it were. Faulkner, Gigante is there. Ashley Mormon-Passio is there. She had a bit of a technical issue for the stage last week. She was bitterly disappointed with that, and she of course has had an amazing season on Zwift. Well, she's the current South African road race champion. She won 3 stages of the Tour for All, as well as the Zwift Classic, the Trofeo Bologna. She's really adapted to this, and thankfully she's there in the mix. No dropouts for her today.
Yeah, this is great to see her in the mix. You see, get a little look at Kirsten Wild here, the 8-time track world champion. But it's great to see Ashley Mormon-Passio in here, and she's taken, the Zwift racing and virtual racing, with both hands, and she's really, really loves it. We can see a picture of Kirsten Wild there, the rider for Sarah Tizet WNT Pro Cycling.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Matt, actually, despite being, she's lost contact with the front group, but just look at the effort it still takes to maintain with, in the race, and to get up the climb.
Oh, definitely. Well, she's still putting out well over 200 watts. It's a good, she's riding with honour here, because this sort of climb, if you're not a pure climber, you basically just have to sort of get into your own rhythm, set a pace that you can maintain, which is at or around kind of threshold, and just keep ticking away the kilometre, trying to break down the climb into little parts. Quite often the best way to psychologically look at climbing is to break it down, as we look at the max power for the intermediate sprint. That was Kirsten Wild. She is one of the finest sprinters in the world, and as you said, a real protagonist of the track craft as well. A multiple world champion, as you mentioned, Hannah, in the past. But I don't think really Mont Ventoux is her happy stomping ground, to be perfectly honest with you. But as you said, good to see her still there, riding away, and obviously representing her team as we head back to the front of the group. Faulkner here. This group is still around sort of 15 or so riders. Hannah Barnes is there as well, the former British road champion. Lauren Stevens, Krista Doble-Hickok is there, Joss Loudon, all of the main names but it's slowly thinning down. That tech group is just, as you said, getting whittled down now.
Yeah, it is, and Tibco again, strength in numbers in this front group. As with CCC Live, actually, they've got some good numbers, and drops again as ever. They're present as well, but it's just started to settle down a little bit. Everyone's back together. There's only around, as you said, around 14 riders in this front group now, with a couple of riders, in touching distance of this group, and it's going to take a mighty effort for them if they want to, get themselves back in contention to get back into this front group.
Indeed, we're just looking at the numbers now. Again, if you head over to zwift.com/raceview, you can have a look at the individual metrics of all of these riders. You can see where the riders are on the climb. Look at the teams, their positions on the road. Just adds a little bit of added texture to the whole viewing experience here on Zwift. But that group is now down to 18 riders. Kasia Nieuwedome is the last rider in that group. She's 6 seconds behind Faulkner, leading the tempo at the moment. Paulina Ruiekes is there. Gigante, Leah Dixon, Loudon, Lauren Stevens and Mormon Pasture, Ella Harris. We must say happy birthday to Ella Harris as well. She's 22 years of age today, and what a way to celebrate your birthday riding up Mont Ventoux.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she'd actually love it. As a former Zwift Academy winner, and this stage really does suit her down to the ground. She won a mountaintop finish race, before lockdown happened over in Australia. So really will suit her today, and we should get a look at Ashley Mormon-Pasio.
There we go, Ashley Mormon-Pasio in Spain, just in and out of the saddle there. 81 RPM, being urged on there by her husband on the left-hand side. She looks so focused. She was so disappointed the other day because she has really adapted to riding on this platform. And I think an interesting thing about lockdown and about the way a lot of riders have taken to riding and indeed racing on Zwift is the power, the power that Ashley Mormon-Pasio is able to put out in real life. She's increased her threshold power and her time up the local Roca Corba climb by 2 minutes, which, when you think about it, is very, very impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And I think that just shows also what riding indoors can do for you as well, and your fitness and physically. I know I do a few of her rides every Sunday morning, and she was saying how much riding on Zwift has paid off for her training, her numbers, and I think it's going to play dividends when we go back to the in real life racing as well.
I think it is. It's certainly going to be explosive, but this racing has been explosive. We've had a wonderful 4 stages. We're now in the final weekend of the virtual Tour de France. Tomorrow we finish on the Champs-Élysées. I cannot wait for that stage. But meanwhile, we have 7.7 kilometres to go of this, the Queen stage, La Reine. It is 22.9 kilometres. Most of it, of course, uphill, up to Chalet Reynard. And at the final few Ks, very, very difficult indeed. But look at the technique here of Joss Loudon, looking very, very good. She's still in that front group, pedaling a high cadence. And that suggests to me she's a rider well in control, isn't she? Tapping away that nice rhythm there. Okay, she's rocking from side to side, but just looking at her expression, looking at the way she's holding herself, suggests to me that she's within herself there.
Yeah, she looks very in control. She looks very focused, and one of the only riders actually that we've seen so far on the picture-in-picture and seeing their numbers, who's been consistently keeping a high cadence, opting to keep her hands in the middle of the bars next to the stem, and not sort of getting in and out the saddle, just remaining in the saddle. A rider who's coached by Sean Yates, so that also says something about her. She's very, very good time trialist and climber. Relatively new to the sport, over maybe the last 3-4 years, but certainly not one to be dismissed.
Not at all. Well, this group thinning out all the time. Riders dropping off the back. It is Kasia Nieuwedome now, who's one rider who's just dropped off the back of that group, which is a little bit of a surprise. She's now 17th on the road at 19 seconds. And it is Hannah Barnes, who's actually, 17 seconds. I mean, we did discuss Hannah Barnes at the top of the show. The way that she's riding, a former British road race champion, of course. She's very, very quick at the finish, but she's mixing it very well. She's just at the back of this group at the moment. Is that a bit of a surprise to you, for her to actually be riding in front of Nieuwedome?
Definitely for her to be in front of Anua Domi. She's, obviously she's known more as a sprinter and a rider who can get over smaller climbs, but for her to still be here on a climb such as this is very, very impressive riding from Barnes. And if she can just keep her cool, remain focused, if she's there at the finish, I mean, don't discount Hannah Barnes. She had that awful ankle break a few years ago, and I know she was riding a lot on the turbo on Zwift for her recovery. Obviously, she's a stage winner of the Giro Rosa as well, so not to be underestimated, but big surprise to see her on this climb.
Yeah, she's looking very, very good indeed as we get that wonderful heli shot. Absolutely beautiful. Look at the way that this has been rendered in game. It really does feel like you're there. The wonderful attention to detail and the way that the engineers have turned this world around. The first time we've ever had a virtual Tour de France. And of course, if you fancy giving it a bit of a nudge up Mont Ventoux, you can. Of course, we got l'étape de Tour Virtual. If you head over to your Zwift companion app or head on to zwift.com/events, if you've got a Zwift subscription, you can ride in this world as well. But the Tour, the l'étape Tour, the Tour Virtual actually goes past Chalet Reynard. You've got to go all the way top to the radio tower, so you've got another 8 kilometres to go. So the best of luck to you, but I know that lots of people have already ridden it, and I think I might give it a go in the next few days as well, as we look at Gigante and Stevens, two very, very good climbers. And again, didn't Stevens look very, very composed there? I mean, just razor focus.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Seeing the different expressions on riders' faces and how they're riding, how they position themselves on the bike. But she looks very, very focused. She's a great time trialist. She's won a stage at the Lotto Thüringen Ladies Tour a few years back, and another rider who punches well above her weight. She's very, very experienced. Been with Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank for a long time now. A very, very strong rider.
Which Rujak has now moved to the front for CCC Liv. Out of the saddle, the Dutch woman looking good. CCC have got a very, very strong team here, of course, all about Ashley Moolman-Pasio, would imagine, but Rujak is really setting the pace here. Look at the gradient on the right-hand side, 11%, forcing her out of the saddle. She's looking like she's going very deep, hovering at around 300 watts there. That is really going to be hurting here. As they get higher and higher, they climb to, just over 1,200 meters today. And I'm wondering if the air is feeling very thin. Number 4 there, just crossing the gap is Faulkner. But Rujak is at a distinctive style there, almost perpetually out of the saddle.
Yeah, very distinct style, isn't it? But, the effort that she's put down now, she's opened up just over a 1 second gap to the riders. So she's got 4 riders with her now. Ashley Moolman-Pasio, her teammate, as you can just see on the right screen, the virtual in-game, that Moolman-Pasio is coming alongside her. She's got Faulkner and Gigante and Leah Dixon with her. So this is brilliant riding from Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. So we have 2 CCC Liv riders and 3 from Tibco Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah, this is very, very exciting indeed. This group thinning down all the time. Remember, head over to Zwift.com RaceView to get even more detail on the action. You can really drill down and have a look at these riders' stats, the effort that they're putting out as the road climbs even more into the clouds. Gigante still there in the yellow jersey. Remember, 19 years of age, Team Tibco Silicon Valley, headed into today's stage 5 of the virtual tour, with 277 points ahead of Drop Cycling with 219. So looking at the way they're stacking the riders here, they're going to score a lot more points to head into the final stage. So far, so good, Hannah, for team at Tibco Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I mean, they've rode outstanding throughout the whole of this virtual Tour de France. Picking up points in the green jersey classification, the yellow jersey, the team overall classification. They really have been, phenomenal all round. And, it's showing in this stage as well that, it's not just the sprint stages that they can get up there on, it's also all the mountain stages too.
Oh, there we go. Gigante again focused in the saddle, just in the middle of that group. So you won't be getting too much draft on a climb just like this, maybe just a little bit. And as I've mentioned a couple of times before, if you've joined us for the last few stages, the drafting on Zwift has been tweaked a little bit for these riders to make it feel just a little bit more like in real life. But of course, when the speeds are this slow, they're only moving at around 12 kilometers an hour. There's hardly any benefit from sitting on the wheel at all. but Gigante looking very, very good, as is Rally Cycling's Krista Dobel-Hickok. But we've only got now, Hannah, 12 riders in this group, because Lippert has been dropped. We've got Stevens, Gilman, Harris, Dobel-Hickok, Moolman-Pasio, Faulkner, Gigante. Danny Christmas still in that group, as well as Florty Mackay, Leah Dixon. So all of the climbers, I'm surprised with the ride of Danny Christmas. That has been the surprise for me after that big attack early on, for her to still be in the front.
Yeah, I mean, this is a real standout ride from her, isn't it? To still be in the mix, that was a huge effort that she made, but she's recovered well. We saw her in the live pictures of her in a little pain cave that she was taking on hydration. She sat up. She's obviously recovered well. She's obviously in very, very good form. Obviously become very accustomed to the virtual racing to still be in this group, as we see. Just look at that move just going there with 3 of the Tibco riders trying to follow the move of Ashley Moolman-Pasio there at the front.
Well, this is amazing stuff here. This could be a pivotal point on this stage 5 of the virtual tour. Ashley Moolman-Pasio trading blows with Leah Dixon and Gigante, but Gigante, the young Australian, rides straight up to the South African, and straight over the top goes Lauren Christmas. Well, she's certainly not going to send those guys a card, is she? She's straight up, and look at the reaction there from Gigante. Gigante, you're riding like a woman possessed in the maillot jaune, straight over the top. Brilliant stuff from the Aussie.
Well, look at this. It's just attack after attack. All the teams, not wanting to let any rider give them any second whatsoever. Now it's Moolman-Pasio chasing down Gigante, but just look at the effort and the watts per kilogram from Moolman-Pasio, 6.1 watts per kilo. So this is real impressive stuff now, and gaps are starting to open up within this top 10 now.
It certainly is. This group is now splitting because of the pressure that's being applied at the front. Didn't think I'd see so many attacks lower down the climb. Still 7% here. But there's hardly any break at all from this relentless gradient to the top here at Chalet Reynard. A cheeky little power-up is being used there, a couple of aero power-ups, which makes you more aero for 15 seconds, actually makes you 25% more efficient, adjusts your drag coefficient. But any kind of benefit at all, if you've got a power-up and you need to use it, why not? And the group comes back together yet again. This is fantastic stuff. Very, very evenly matched. And Hannah, with 5Ks to go, at the moment, this is very difficult to call.
Yeah, I mean, despite all those big attacks, riders are able to make get themselves back into contention with this front group. It's all back together now, but it's a question of where's the next attack going to come from, because the more attacks you make, the more you take out of the legs, the less you're going to have for the finish. As we see another attack go from Sarah Gigante here. This is really impressive stuff from the rider who has the yellow jersey on her shoulders. I mean, she really is carrying confidence. Moolman-Pasio, the rider who's left to chase.
Moolman-Pasio straight out of the saddle again. Just look at the focus, the determination on her face. And look at Gigante there, wearing the yellow jersey with flair and panache, riding like a real legend here up this climb. Of course, Mont Ventoux, one of the most iconic roads in world cycling. It is an absolutely wondrous climb. So many battles over the years, so much history there. And history, of course, being made here in the virtual world for the very first time. And we are being treated to a wonderful race. The first time we've seen the women racing in the virtual Tour de France on this climb. And look, Gigante, the young upstart, in second position, but Moolman-Pasio starting to open up a little bit of a gap here. But look at the splits behind now. Riders, Hannah, really struggling to stay in contact. This, I think, is going to be the critical point in the race. Just under 5Ks to go.
Yeah, well, from the efforts of Gigante and Moolman-Pasio, this really has done damage now. If you just look at the top 10, we've got Ella Harris, who's now 17 seconds behind, so that's a real shock. But these two riders really dishing out the pain, and it's only Loudon who's currently sitting in third place. She's the nearest challenger, she's 6 seconds behind now. It's sort of now or never for the rider, the Great Britain rider from Drops, to try and get back on terms with this duo.
Well, Ashley Moolman-Pasio driving hard. She's got a half a second lead on Gigante, the yellow jersey wearer. And then, as you said, we've got Leah Dixon and Josh Loudon, both at 11 seconds now. The gap is opening up a little bit further down. Another Tibco rider, Lauren Stevens. There on the right-hand side are the riders' positions on the road. Gigante swapping turns. Happy to swap turns here with Ashley Moolman-Pasio. This is fantastic stuff. Is this going to be the breakaway of the day? Or will the combination of the Tibco riders behind try and bring these back? Absolutely wonderful stuff. I wonder if Dixon and Stevens are actually happy with the situation. I don't think they kind of want to reel anybody back in, but I think this is every woman for themselves now.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Dixon and Stevens will be very happy. They've got a teammate in Gigante up in the front, and as long as Stevens and Dixon and Faulkner can maintain their positions, they're all within the top 7 at the minute. They're going to score a lot of points in this finale to go towards the yellow jersey, and also pick up a lot of points in the King and the Queen of the Mountains as well. But Gigante and Mulman Pasio just settling down now, but they're very evenly matched, this pair. When you look at their numbers and the watts per kilogram, even their heart rate, Mulman Pasio 181 beats per minute currently, so it just gives you an idea of how deep these riders are going.
Certainly does. We'll look at the gap that these two riders have opened up. Ashley Mulman Pasio, running for CCC Liv, the current South African road race champion, has dominated racing on the Zwift platform so far this year, has taken to it like a fish to water. Gigante is there too. Both of them, look at the stats, hovering at around 6 watts per kilo. That is absolutely phenomenal. Nearly half a minute now to Danny Christmas, Lauren Stevens and Josh Loudon. So a tight little group there, just looking at each other. I don't think they've got anything in their legs to try and chase. I do think that now this win is going to come unless one of these riders completely capitulates and blows, and that certainly isn't unheard of. But looking at the way that Gigante is riding with that yellow jersey on her back and the sheer experience of Mulman Pasio, it looks to be at the moment, with a nearly 40-second gap, as if the win for the stage is going to be between those two riders now, Hannah.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for any of these 9 riders behind to get in contention for the stage win today. But is this group going to sort of recover, get a bit of the legs back and reduce the heart rate a little bit, and then we might see a lot more attacks coming from this group later on in the stage. There's still 4 kilometres left to go, but this is a really steep section here, Matt. We're at 14%. And if you're already in the red and you're already suffering, this is not going to be very easy on you.
Yep, it's coping with these particular sections. If you can cope with these well, it's about using your gearing right, making sure you're not putting too much torque through, just sitting there pedaling away. But this little group now, I think, are almost happy to let those two riders go. They exchanged some brutal blows, and finally they moved clear. And now, if you just look up the road, they are out of sight. They now have a 49-second lead. Mulman Pasio and Gigante dominating this race. That little flurry of attacks a couple of kilometres ago, they have reaped the rewards, and nobody else could follow. But this is a solid little group behind, and it looks like a couple of riders have actually got back in contact. Ella Harris, after dangling off the back, has actually managed to get herself back into this group. But look at this. They're just going over this beautiful stone bridge here. Again, the flowing river, the rapids on the right-hand side, the attention to detail in-game here, absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, I said this last week. I'm not sure about this stage though, but I think the French world is becoming my new favourite. Yeah, the attention to detail, and when you can hear, the horn that you would hear in the Tour de France, and you see all the fans at the side of the road wearing the jerseys, and it's phenomenal what the engineers have been able to do to create this world. It does feel very, very, very real.
It certainly felt real. I've ridden up Mont Ventoux a couple of times in real life, then rode it in Zwift, and yeah, it's absolutely brutal. I did have a little bit of a lie down, but there we go, nearly a minute lead for our two leaders. The shadow being cast by the wall there. Just look at that, the shadows of the riders as they just cross the rapids there, the heavily flowing river. And another little attack is Floorty Mackay from Sunweb has now done a little bit of a move, just a little attack off the front there, and she's drawn out Kristen Faulkner of Team Tipco as the lead taps up again. 16% now, the gradient. This is really going to be hurting. The lungs are going to be burning. Lactic acid coursing through the legs. Very, very difficult indeed. Who has got enough to take the victory here? And interestingly, who's got a power up? Because although there's several occasions through the climb, there's a couple of arches that they passed under where they actually get given new power-ups, Hannah. So the way they've matched each other here, if one's got an aero power-up and one's got a feather power-up, it could come down to tactical usage of a power-up as well as that punch at the end.
Yeah, it could, and the next power-up, although you won't see an actual banner for it, the next one comes at 20.3 kilometres covered. So, the riders, these two riders, if they have got a power up and it's not a feather, I would advise use it now, get rid of it, and hope that you will get that feather power up for the finish. But yeah, it's I think the riders music to their ears when they heard that there would be 2 extra power up points in today's race.
Absolutely fantastic. Look at this. Mauman trying to drop the young Australian. 340 watts there. There we go. This is the elevation. They actually gain 890. Well, they've climbed, sorry, should I say, 893 and counting to the 1,141 meters of today's climb. It really, look at that again, another clutch of enthusiastic crowd there. I didn't see any motor vehicles. I wonder if they've ridden up or actually walked up the climb. Well, that is certainly something. Urging these riders on, but they are very, very evenly matched. I mean, Mauman weighs only 49 kilograms. I think Sarah Gigante is a similar weight, around 50 kgs. So they are very, very evenly matched. But the interesting thing for me is Gigante's ability as a time trialist as well. That's really going to help her on this climb. And it is going to come down to who's got the strongest legs, and maybe a little bit of psychological warfare as well, because we saw, didn't we, a little bit of pressure being applied by Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio. I don't think she wants to wait to a sprint, put it that way.
No, I think you're quite right. But, Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio, very, very experienced in real-life racing, got a lot of confidence behind her. She's 34 years of age now, and she's up against Sarah Gigante, who's only 19 years of age. So, up-and-coming rider, already had some huge wins in a short career so far. But I don't think Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio will want to leave it to a sprint. I think we will see a few tacks and blows to each other going into that final part of the race.
Indeed, well, Sarah Gigante has had a fair bit of racing in real life already this year. She was 5th overall in the Herald Sun Tour, and her first race was a win in the individual time trial championships of Australia. As we look at Joss Loudon, again, she's had a superb race. Again, not panicking at all, making it, well, I wouldn't say she's making it look easy, but she's certainly in control there. Again, she chooses pretty much consistently a higher kind of cadence, flicking over those pedals very, very nicely, looking to score some points for her team. And heading into today's stage, it was Drops, who was second overall with 219 points. So Drops looking to score well today. But the dominant team, without a shadow of a doubt, is team at Tibco Silicon Valley. All 4 riders in that front group, Leah Dixon, Lauren Stevens, Kristen Falconer, and of course at Sarah Gigante up the road. They have ridden a quite amazing virtual Tour de France so far. But we have now, Hannah, well, 2.5 kilometres to go. And it is Gigante and Moolman-Pasio. I'm going to put you on the line here. Who do you think is going to pull this one off?
I think after doing so much Zwift racing, throughout the lockdown, really, getting to grips with the game. As she was in Spain, she's the lockdown, they weren't allowed outside to ride outside at all, so she spent her whole time on Zwift. I'm going to put it on Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio of CCC Live, and I think she will have, the bit between her teeth because of last week's virtual, mechanical. Where it really did throw her out of contention. She was a non-starter almost. So I think she's got the bit between her teeth, and I think it'll be Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio.
Yeah, I think you're right. But again, the thing about Gigante, although she's very young, she's still a little bit of an unknown quantity. We could, with her only being 19 years of age, there's only so many results you can look through to try and formulate an educated opinion. As Gigante goes invisible, interesting little move there. Just using her invisibility power. I'm wondering if she's just dropping that to actually, well, there we go. It's another acceleration here. Gigante actually dropping off the wheel here. She's a second behind now. Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio out of the saddle. But no, Gigante back in contact again. Whatever Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio throws at the young Australian, she's back at it. Matching her pedal stroke for pedal stroke in those rather fetching yellow socks.
Yeah, that was an impressive move by Gigante to get back on terms with Moolman-Pasio there as she injected the pace. Another little attack going from Ashleigh Moolman-Pasio. She ups her watts per kilogram to 8.2. I mean, this is really impressive stuff that Moolman-Pasio can't shake Gigante off her wheel.
Well, I think she has now. Just as you spoke, I think a little crack has started to form. 3 seconds now. Ashley Moolman-Pasio putting out 7 watts a kilo. And of course, if Sarah Gigante wants to close the gap, she's got to match those watts and actually do even more to close the gap. And look at this, Moolman-Pasio out of the saddle, focused, breathing in, but looking remarkably strong here. It looks to me, Hannah, as if she's got even more under the hood. It's still 1,800 metres to go. Has she gone too early? 5 seconds now, the gap to Gigante.
Well, it's now or never for Gigante, isn't it? If she wants to try and get back on terms and vie for the stage win here, it's just she's really got to put in the effort now as it starts to open up to around 7 seconds. I mean, she's still got her in a sight, so it's not all over yet with 1.7 kilometres to go, but Ashley Moolman-Pasio looking very, very fierce and determined to take the stage win here, Matt.
She's looking very, very good. Again, definitely overturning the disappointment of last week. But there is, what a ride by the 19-year-old Sarah Gigante, riding in second position up Mont Ventoux. 1.6 kilometres to go for our 2 leaders. That little clutch of riders now a distant 1 minute and 16 seconds behind, but it is Paulina Ruijekers in third position. Then we have Lauren Stevens. Good ride by Ella Harris in fifth position. Joss Loudon and Leah Dixon also there. Kristen Faulkner and Victoria Gilman has moved up as well. So that's the group of riders just behind. But let's just fly through and look at the gap that's opening up. 13 seconds now for Ashley Moolman-Pasio. What a dominant performance this is. It looks as if she is romping to victory.
Yeah, this is a tremendous effort, isn't it? I mean, maintaining consistently a high watts per kilogram and, a heart rate, she must be, towards her max now, 186 beats per minute. And you just look at, I'm looking on the race view thing, on Zwift, 19.7 kilometers per hour, Ashley Moolman's traveling at the moment. I mean, it really is sensational. A 10% gradient. She's riding away with this one.
Well, this is absolutely astonishing stuff. 10% gradient, moving at a pace. 1,300 metres to go for the South African. You just see that little pinprick in the top of your screen. That is the yellow jersey of Sarah Gigante. She has her in her sights on this long stretch. But 16 seconds is the gap now, and the gap opens even more, unsurprisingly, to the group behind. 1 minute and 33 seconds. It's been a phenomenal stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France. This is the Queen stage, and it looks as if the Queen is going to be the South African road champion. Ashley Moolman-Pasio there for CCC Live, still looking focused. It doesn't even look as if she's hurting. She looks to be in complete and utter control of herself here. Starting to breathe a little bit. Maybe for the first time, Hannah, there's a few little cracks appearing in her countenance, in her face there. 1 kilometre to go.
Yeah, she crests the Flamme Rouge now. 19 seconds is the gap now to Sarah Gigante. But Moolman-Pasio, maintaining that position out of the saddle, all the power going through those pedals, and real bit between her teeth now. She really wants this one. I mean, this will be tremendous for her to take, her first stage victory in the virtual Tour de France. But it's not all over. It's another 2 seconds opens up to Gigante, but phenomenal stuff by Ashley Moolman-Pasio.
And what a mature ride as well by this rider. She's attacked as well. She hasn't just sat in and followed the wheels. She has ridden with real flair, real panache and guts as well. What a bright future Sarah Gigante has, the Australian. She is not giving up. Okay, the gap is now 21 seconds. It looks as if this stage is going to be taken by the South African champion. But what a performance here by the rider from Team Tipco Silicon Valley. She's going to score a ruck of points towards the yellow jersey classification. It looks as if they will be leading as we head into the final stage on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow. But that is the standing at the moment. 500 metres to go, or just a little bit more. There is Didi the Devil floating high. That is very, very impressive indeed. Slightly alarming, but there he is on the right-hand side. An enthusiastic crowd waving this rider on here. Ashley Moolman-Pasio, another solid performance, but fair play to Gigante. The gap now, Hannah, is holding steady at 21 seconds. She certainly hasn't capitulated just yet.
No, she hasn't. And I was just looking at, the kilometres per hour. And actually, Gigante was going 5 kilometres per hour quicker than Ashley Moolman-Pasio. I mean, the gap is maintaining as it is, but she was the rider who, started this breakaway. She was the rider, the instigator. And it was only Ashley Moolman-Pasio who was able to follow the move of the young 19-year-old. Impressive stuff here, though, by Ashley Moolman-Pasio, the South African road race champion.
Well, she is eating this climb. Out of the saddle once more, still her eyes firmly fixed on the screen in front of her. Very, very shortly, as the road just sweeps gently round to the right-hand side, she will see the banner and she will know she is going to be victorious on this stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France, the Queen stage of this year's race, up Mont Ventoux for the very first time, finishing here at Chalet Reynard. 22 seconds it is back to Sarah Gigante. She can actually back off the pedals if she wants to here. This is a glorious victory. It is Ashley Moolman-Passio taking a sensational win here on Mont Ventoux at Chalet Reynard, destroying the field behind her. And she will be absolutely delighted. She takes the win, crosses the line. There it is. That's the smile, the big grin. And that is going to mean so, so much to her and her team.
Well, what an effort there. That was a tremendous map.
Certainly was. Gigante now, the last few metres for the young Australian. What a performance. She's actually closed back a little bit of time. Gigante giving it everything to the line. Crosses the line in second place at 23 seconds. What a performance by the young Australian. She really did ride with a lot of verve there. She crosses past. I'd imagine they'll be giving them each other a virtual high five because they put on a real show for us here. That was absolutely spectacular stuff. And I think a real glimpse into the future of women's cycling. What a ride by Sarah Gigante. But just behind, a little bit further down the road, a couple of riders have got a bit of a power up here. This little clutch of riders here, Danny Christmas, Faulkner, Loudon, Stevens, all looking for valuable points as they head up towards the finish here, Hannah.
Yeah, just looking at Danny Christmas has a 5-second gap over Kristen Faulkner, who's in fourth. So this is, after her effort, on the Petit KOM and towards the lower slopes of this Ventoux climb, this is a fantastic effort from Danny Christmas, really wanting to try and take as many points as possible for Lotto Soudal ladies. And it will elevate them up into the standings on the Queen of the Mountains jersey as well, because obviously a lot the points go down to 10th position. This is a brilliant, valiant effort.
Yeah, she's been very aggressive, but I think she's going to be overhauled almost within sight of the line. It is. Kristen Faulkner now goes out in front. Danny Christmas looking desperate. Another rider just shoots past. I think it was Leah Dixon. Leah Dixon opened up a sprint. She's got a power up as well. So Gigante second. Lauren Stevens, it looks as if she's going to cross line. There's two Tipco riders neck and neck here, and it's Stevens who just rolls across the line in third, Leah Dixon in fourth, and Kristen Faulkner in fifth. An incredible performance by team at Tipco Silicon Valley Bank. 4 riders inside the top 5. That is domination, but look at the effort. Look at how deep Danny Christmas had to go there. Great to see her at the head of affairs. And again, another rider who's ridden out of her skin and with real flair today, Hannah.
Yeah, certainly, and a well-deserved win of the Prix de la Combatif. She put on a superb ride today, and really took it to all the other riders. She was the sole rider represented in that front group, and fantastic performance there from the British rider.
Oh, look at her gulping in the air a little bit further down the climb. Remember, the first 25 places, so the first 25 riders are going to need to fight for these points, which could prove very, very valuable indeed. And it is the rider from, it is Liana Lippert there from Team Sunweb. A little bit further down. She is just going to be outside. She's currently in 13th position, but still a lot of points on offer, putting her 8.6 watts a kilo here. Great sprint to the line. And it's so good to see these riders. They're not just riding up this climb, they're absolutely giving it their all. But 3 minutes and 25 seconds and counting for Lippert, but a good ride by the Dutchwoman.
Yeah, a very, very good ride by Lippert there. And, as you said, over 3 minutes past the winner. But, the gaps as we look down the standings, fantastic, valiant effort from the former German road race champion.
And that team at 2020 here. This is just crossing the line. That's Courtney Nelson, the American. Just bowls across the line there again. And here is, the wonderful shot. That is the Petit QOM just below there, but this is confirmation of the stage today, and what a stage it was. The Queen stage of the race, Ashley Moolman-Passio, in a time, and a quite incredible time, in fact, of 57 minutes and 10 seconds. 23 seconds to the good. Sarah Gigante in second. Riding in yellow, and riding out of her skin, if you ask me. Lauren Stevens from Tibco, Leah Dixon from Tibco, and Kristen Faulkner, 4 riders from Team Tibco Silicon Valley in the top 5. Danny Christmas, the most aggressive rider to date. She certainly did deserve that. She certainly animated the race and came good towards the back end as well for her best performance of the virtual Tour de France so far. And there you go, that is the moment that Ashley Moolman-Pasio added to her palmares, and the team and herself are going to be very, very happy. And again, so are the crowd, jumping for joy as the South African crosses the line. She looks relieved there, doesn't she? Because that was a tough, tough effort.
Yeah, that was very tough, but very relieved, very happy with that victory, and I think that will rank very, very high up on her palmares. She'll be very chuffed with that one, and I know she's put in a lot of work over the past few months on Zwift, and I think to take a victory like today on the Queen stage, super happy for that one, and I think the team will be very happy too.
Indeed, well, that's going to, as we get back to racing in real life as well, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these riders, the condition that they've gained from riding on Zwift. Of course, many riders use it quite regularly as part of their training. And we should be getting an interview very, very shortly, hopefully with Ashley Moolman-Pasio, once she's managed to take a drink, mop herself down a little bit. But that was a real superb stage. I knew we'd have a good race here. We knew the field was stacked, but that was a proper show, wasn't it? And very, very evenly matched until only about 5Ks to go.
Yeah, it was, and there was still a lot of riders left in contention, but it wasn't until the number of efforts, as we can hear from Ashley Moolman-Pasio now, our stage winner.
Ashley Moolman-Pasio, winner of stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France. Well, I think it's safe to say today was the Queen stage, and there's no doubt that you've become the Queen of Zwift as far as climbs are concerned. Talk us through your emotions on winning a stage of the virtual Tour de France.
Yeah, it was really great to win today for my CCC Live team. Luckily no technical problems today. Last week was a little bit disappointing with a dropout during the stage. So I was very happy to have a smooth ride today, and great to take the stage.
Sara Gigante really pushed you hard on that climb. Were you always confident that you could go away, or did you start to be concerned at all that the 19-year-old Australian was going to give you a really good run all the way to the line?
Well, there's no doubt that she's a great talent. That was already very evident during the Tour for All. So, great ride from her. I did feel confident. I was kind of, keeping it smooth and keeping the real, push or surge for the last couple of kilometers. So, I'm really happy with my ride, but also it's really impressive ride from Sara Gigante.
Ashley, one final question then. I know you've dreamt of winning on the Mont Ventoux, and both in real life but also in terms of winning virtually. And for women's cycling and for you as a team, how important was it to have a virtual Tour de France and for the women to be given an equal platform to the men?
Well, I think the racing on Zwift has been really great for women's cycling. Just seeing it already with the Tour for All, really, it's a lot of appreciation. I have a lot of appreciation for Zwift and for the push that they sort of give women's cycling. Everything that they do, they make it their mission to do everything equal and to give us equal racing, equal exposure. So I must say, it's really great to have brands like Zwift, forward-thinking brands that are really pushing women's cycling forward and giving us the platform. Because when we're given the platform, there's no doubt that there is an appetite to watch our racing. So, hats off to all involved, and a big thanks to Zwift and all involved for this great opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Winner of stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France, South African champion from CCC Live. Congratulations.
Thanks, Sant.
Well, great to hear from Ashley there. Always very eloquent, isn't she? Super professional and, of course, super, super strong. She's, as we mentioned before while we were watching the race, she really has taken to racing on Zwift, and arguably is the finest female proponent of Zwift racing. She doesn't only just win on the climbs, Hannah. We've seen her in previous Zwift races actually take out group sprints on the flat as well, so she can do it all.
Yeah, she certainly can, and I think that comes from the experience of riding on Zwift, training on it, racing on it, and it's shown. And today's effort has also shown that as well. She was mightily impressive at the Tour for All a couple of months ago, but I think this platform, it's not trying to take over road racing or track racing or anything. It's its own discipline in its own right, and these riders are really, really grabbing it with both hands, and that shows with Ashley Moolman-Pasio.
Yep, she certainly enjoyed it. She's taken that form over onto the road as well. And of course, it's another added platform for the teams too. So important, especially during this very difficult time, that teams got exposure for their commercial partners, for their sponsors, and also to engage with the fans. And of course, you watching here today, if you fancy a little piece of Mont Ventoux action or any of the other stages, in fact, head over to zwift.com/events and get riding as we look at the situation at the top of the standings. Well, unsurprisingly, look at the dominance there of team at Tibco Silicon Valley. 409 points ahead of Drops, still up in the mix with 252. Canyon SRAM have closed the gap, so it's a real battle between second and third at the moment. Team 2020, very respectable performance by then in fourth place. So, well, what can you say? When you place 4 riders in the top 5, you're going to score a lot of points, aren't you, Hannah? I mean, that's just what an amazing teamwork group they really are.
Yeah, they really have, and they've come into this racing. They've done their homework. They can go into the final stage tomorrow on the Champs-Élysées very comfortable. I mean, don't get too confident and let's rest on your laurels, but it's very, very impressive from the American team.
It certainly is. Well, the German squad, Canyon SRAM, they lead the Maillot Vert, the green jersey competition, but that's quite close. Team Tibco Silicon Valley would have scored a lot of green points today. Remember, the first 10 rides across the line scored points in that classification too. So Tibco Silicon Valley in second with 197. Then the ever-consistent Drops in third, and CCC Live in fourth, with Trek Sigafredo fifth. Certizet WNT in sixth position. So very close in relation to the points classification. The very coveted Maillot Vert, the green jersey. And next up should be the polka dots. And here we go. Let's have a look at the situation here. Well, unsurprisingly, again, just because they've got that clutch of riders, we had 20 points across the line. The first 10 scored today on the first category climb. No climbs on the Champs-Élysées. So this is nailed on. Team Tibco Silicon Valley are the first winner of a classification in the virtual Tour de France. They take home, as long as they all finish tomorrow and have no virtual crashes, fingers crossed, they should be fine. Team Tibco Silicon Valley, 69 points to the good, ahead of Drops in second place. So another consistent performance by the British team in second. But Team Tip, what can you say about the American squad? Every time they field a squad, they basically dominate, don't they? They're absolutely incredible. Whatever the parkour, they have a team to fit.
I think as well that they've put riders in that suit each stage. It's not kind of, oh, you can do this stage, you can do that one. Riders are doing the stages that suit them physically. So today, obviously, all 4 riders, out and out climbers, and that's shown taking that Queen of the Mountains jersey. I mean, that's very impressive to take it over Drops.
Certainly is. Well, there you go. This was the rollout, and there is that beautiful mosaic look of all of the riders. Picture in picture, a couple of early attacks. That was Brodie Chapman who went on the offensive. Christmas was very dominant too, sheering out as the most aggressive rider today, and that is awarded on Twitter. So that is a public vote, and I think the public certainly got that one right. But in the end, it was a battle between 2 riders, Sarah Gigante, the yellow jersey wearer, and Ashley Moolman-Pasio being cooled down. But the young rider did not give up. But with about 2 kilometres to go, Ashley Moolman-Pasio put in a big move, and she was not to be seen again. Smiles all round from her. And next up is the next. Welcome, bonjour, to stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France. And this time we head up Mont Ventoux. It is La Reine stage, the Queen stage of the race. Alongside me for this arduous journey to the top of the climb or to Chalet Reynard is Hannah Walker. But Hannah, first off, let's have a look at the general classification. The battle for the Maillot Jaune. Of course, NTT lead. They have a healthy lead, 263 points. They are ahead of Rally Cycling with 188. Trek Segafredo in third with 162. And of course, we have other classifications to roll through as well. NTT dominating after 5 stages. They're also in the lead in the green jersey, the maillot vert. 188 points, almost double the tally of Mitchelton Scott. CCC are in 3rd position. And then the King of the Mountains, well, a different team we're going to be riding in that jersey today. It is the Israel Startup Nation. They have 28 points, a very healthy lead ahead of Alpecin Phoenix. And then EF Pro Cycling and Cofidis tying equal 3rd with 10 points. But a lot of points on offer today. 2 climbs today. We have the 3rd category, Petit KOM, and then we have the climb to Chalet Reynard, where 20 points are on offer. NTT also lead the best young rider classification, and the best young rider wears a white jersey traditionally, and they do in-game here in the virtual Tour de France as well. And that is going to be on the shoulders of Stefan de Bod. And we have some amazing riders in this field. It is absolutely stacked. Rowan Dennis from Team Ineos, the world time trial champion, is there. Julian Alaphilippe, one of the most exciting riders in the world. But look at EF, Iran, Carthy, Kamiot, Michael Woods, Roman Bardet, Adam Yates for Team Mitchelton Scott as well. Dan Martin, he is going to be wearing the polka dot jersey for Israel Startup Nation. Jan Bakelitz there for Circus Wanty. Jesper Hansen, a good climber for Cofidis. Look out for Will Barter. NTT, Louis Menkes, the South African, is going to be wearing the yellow jersey today. Kenny Ellison, the little climber there from Trek. This field, as the women's race, absolutely stacked with some of the finest climbers in the world. Hannah, the women's race was amazing. The men's race, well, should be equally as good. Here is the profile. Again, the first 6 or 7 kilometres, relatively flat. It'll be a part of the course these riders are familiar with. They rode it in reverse on stage 3 and 4. We have a sprint at just under 7 Ks. Then we have the Petit KOM at just under 11. And then we hit the climb. And follow every single detail of this race if you head up to zwift.com/raceview, and you can really mine down, have a look at where the riders are out on the course. You can see the climbs, and you can drill down and look at the data, the metrics and the stats of each individual rider if you wish, just to add to your enjoyment of what's been a wonderful virtual Tour de France so far. But Hannah, as I said before, bringing you in now, which the women's race was great, the men's race should be just as good, shouldn't it? Because this field is stacked.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you look at the riders, as you just mentioned before, you know, the likes of Adam Yates, Louis Menkes, we've got, you know, Warren Barguil, Maxime Bouet. I mean, it really is stacked. Rowan Dennis as well, and young Eddie Dunbar, the Irish rider. So altogether now, we're not hit the first sprint yet, but on that climb, we are going to see fireworks again. And I think, as you said, if the women's race is anything to go by, we really are in for a treat on this penultimate stage.
Indeed, well, we just came on air there just as we crossed the intermediates. Well, just as we did go for a bit of a sprint, and that was the intermediate sprint at just over 7 kilometres at 6.8 Ks. And the men here really are moving on at a pace around 50 kilometres an hour, 49-50 Ks an hour. You can just see the stats down in the bottom right-hand corner. That is the speed the riders are moving at through this beautifully rendered French countryside. And already there's a few gaps appearing. A couple of power-ups being used, perhaps power-ups that riders don't necessarily want. So they'll drop those because they'll get one through one of the next arches. And the next arch out on the course is the Petit KOM, which comes at a really cruel point in this course, doesn't it, Hannah? I mean, we've got the lead into the climb. We've got a climb, but there's no descent. It just basically then heads up Mont Ventoux. Brutal. Yeah,
you start climbing and you just never stop. As we actually turn right now, and we do start the bottom slopes of the Petit KOM, and it's one of those parts where now stay within the bunch, try and take as much draft as possible as we go across that little red dash across the road. That indicates the start of the King of the Mountain, and already, as you said before, riders starting to lose contact with this front bunch, as it's only around 50 riders in the front so far, so it's going to be a tough one.
It certainly is. Well, it's Benoit Cosnefroy of AG Toile Mondial who took maximum points there, ahead of Roy Jans, Rousseau, Karl Reinion of Trek Segafredo, the American sprinter, and Touz of Cofidis there. As we look at Thijs Benoot out on the road, a very, very good climber, well, good rouleur. Of course, moved across from Lotto Soudal, and that's the first glimpse we've got of the yellow jersey there on the shoulders of Louis Menkes, who is no stranger to winning on Zwift. A little cheeky attack there by Benoot, and he drifts straight back through. But there's an attack off the front already by Carl Murphy. He's stolen just a little bit of a lead. The rally cycling American rider just drifted off the front. This is a nasty little drag, actually. It's really going to start to, already early in this race, riders in a little bit of difficulty, and a few riders have already lost contact, but most riders at the moment, Hannah, even on the early slopes of this climb, putting out 4, 6, 5 watts a kilo, so it's not easy at all, is it?
No, it's not at all. And if you even just look at Carl Murphy's stats there in the bottom left of your screen, 185 beats per minute, pushing over 300 watts. It doesn't look like he's, going too deep or going too much into the red. Riding well within himself, maintaining himself in this front group for rally cycling. But big stats already.
Yeah, big stats. But Rally, another one of the teams, they're one of the wildcard teams. 22 teams are riding the men's virtual Tour de France, of course, making history. 22 teams, 88 riders on the virtual start line today. And already the field starting to thin out. Ryan Gibbons took stage 1 of this race a couple of weekends ago. Julien Bernard took out stage 2 for Trek Segafredo. Of course, those 2 opening stages were in the virtual world of Watopia, rendered to look a little bit like Nice. And then we moved on, of course, to the French road. Stage 3 was won by Matteo Delsin of Rally, just ahead of Jake Stewart of FDJ. And then stage 4 last weekend was won by Freddie Ovet of the Israel Cycling Academy. And there is our first view of the yellow jersey wearer, looking very, very comfortable at the moment. And just like Team Tipico Silicon Valley, NTT Pro Cycling have really taken to racing on this Zwift platform, haven't they? They really are taking exceptionally seriously and have adapted very, very well indeed.
Yeah, they have. They're obviously on a team training camp. You can see the riders all together again, and I think that's also playing dividends to the team that that they have instant communication with each other. They've also got a numerous amount members of staff around as well. They're really set up for this racing. Obviously done their homework. I've seen a few of the riders doing the recon rides as well, and they really have taken to it. Got 3 of the 4 jerseys on their shoulders as well, so it really is all to play for. And today, as we saw in the women's race, if you do have a jersey on your shoulders, you really cannot you back off, as we see the King of the Mountains jersey wearer Dan Martin of the Israel Startup Nation.
Yeah, it looks like Dan Martin is actually a little bit further down. Just looking at the power that he's putting out, 270 watts. He's already been dropped from that group. So we will not be seeing Dan Martin at the sharp end of this race, but still looking comfortable. He's obviously going to still have a very, very good workout here, wearing the polka dot jersey. But a lot of points on offer at the top of Mont Ventoux today, or sort of say Chalet Reynard, but there's some more points on offer here as well. This is the top of the Petit KOM, and boy, they have really ripped up this climb. They've eaten the 3 or 4 kilometres that constitute this climb very, very quickly, just round this little hairpin bend on the pave, and then the finishing straight opens up. Well, sorry, there's a long straight ahead, then another couple of hairpins towards the top, but already this group has really sort of started to thin out now. It's only already, well, have a look at how many are in this group, maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 or 40 riders in this group. As they head towards the top, it's Quentin Pache of the B&B Hotels VTOL concept team going for the sprint. Domenico Pozzovivo were also there. Rigoberto Urán also jostling in the mix here. Who's going to take out the points? This is a 3rd category climb. It looks like it's Jonas Reichardt. It looks like he's going to take the points there. Jonas Reichardt of Alpecin Phoenix crosses the line ahead of Quentin Pache. And the Janssens in 3rd place. So Alpecin Phoenix putting 2 riders in the top 3. And that will definitely help them towards the King of the Mountains classification as they sit in 2nd position behind Israel Startup Nation. And Israel Startup Nation did not score. And there is the smiling face of Jonas Reichardt. But Hannah, I don't think he's going to be smiling for much longer.
No, I don't think you will, but fantastic effort and the all needed points towards that classification. They had a great start in that jersey at the start of the virtual Tour de France, but they really need to claw it back now. Today's the last day that they can score points towards that quick King of the Mountains classification, but great ride there and great timing from Jonas Reichardt.
Yep, certainly. Definitely a good sprint there. They clearly had the plan to do that. They put both riders in a good position. And we're just seeing, after that little flurry there, a few gaps opened up on that 3rd category climb. And if I was one of these riders, I wouldn't necessarily want to get involved in sprinting so early on at the foot slopes. So I think riders just basically riding patiently, staying in the wheels, and then gradually clawing their way back into contention without going too deep as we look at Romain Bardet here. Of course, one of the finest climbers in the world, riding for AG2R Le Mondial, former King of the Mountains. in the Tour de France. Looking good. And he's got a very, very strong team around him. He's got Pierre Latour, Alexis Villermoz and Benoit Cosnefroy. It's a very, very strong team fielded here by AG2R Le Mondial, Hannah.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and it's all those riders that we're used to seeing in real life Tour de France as well. So really impressive having their lineup here of AG2R Le Mondial.
And AG2R Le Mondial riding well. Of course, this is the Tour de France, the virtual Tour de France. Very, very important to every single team, especially to a team like this. Of course, this is, well, the 18th of July. And if you look a little bit closely at the jerseys ridden by Team NTT, of course, they're wearing the white jersey, the yellow jersey and the green. So the only rider in their regular kit is actually Ben O'Connor. If you watch out for Ben O'Connor, they're actually wearing a 67 motif on their jersey, which is to celebrate Mandela Day and 67 years of fighting social injustice. And of course, the team in one of their earlier iterations is MTM Quebec at a very, very special 18th of July back in 2015 when Steve Cummings won the stage in Monday just ahead of that rider just there, Romain Bardet. So fond memories of this date and a very, very important day for that team. And good to see that there's been a special effort made to render in-game that very special number, the number 67.
Yeah, it's really special, isn't it, to show the team and also represent Mandela Day. It's very, very special and to them and team and to many people around the world.
Certainly is. Well, I'm just looking back through this group. That's the first to look at Julien Alaphilippe. Well, looking at his stats, I don't think he's actually in this front group. He's just tapping away there at 200 watts, making sure he's keeping hydrated. But the Deconic Quickstep team, they are actually one of the teams actually currently at altitude. And if you're riding at altitude, I know they are staying at around 2,000 meters. So it's going to be a little bit, it's not quite a benefit for them. They're going to be not able to uptake quite as much oxygen. But one rider who's certainly taken up a fair bit of oxygen is Mike Woods. 7.5 watts a kilo, the rider from EF Pro Cycling, looking very, very good and has gone on the offensive very early here. And it's so good to see this rider. I mean, it's just great to see him riding a bike in the real world and in the virtual world, Hannah, because he had that awful leg break earlier in the year in Paris-Nice. He snapped his femur, which is absolutely awful. A career-threatening injury, should I say. But to see him back and aggressive is something very, very special.
Yeah, it is, and seeing a rider come back from such an injury. I mean, I think he's a really likeable guy, a really likeable rider anyway, and the way that he races is very admirable. But it's great to see him back here as we see him in real life on the left-hand side of your screen. You can just see the data that he's putting out there, 414 watts, and on this climb, we're still climbing here. Don't forget, 33 kilometers per hour. He's had two riders join him now, Pozzovivo and Vingard. So a little trio being formed.
Yep, good ride there. Mike Woods just goes straight over the top of the rider from Team Jumbo-Visma. This is an interesting little trio we have out in front. As you said, Jonas Vingard tapping out 5.4 watts a kilo. Mike Woods is there. And also Domenico Pozzovivo, one of the finest climbers in the world, in a green jersey. That's not a jersey we'd see the little climber in very, very often at all. But NTT have been so dominant. They're bossing 3 classifications, but 4 seconds is the lead to Rodriguez, Bardet, Oran, Gavin Mannion. Good to see him, Ben O'Connor, Eddie Dunbar, an outside bet, I think, for today. And also not too far away, Rowan Dennis. He's currently in 16th place. I know he would dearly like to win on this. He's really taken to racing on Zwift and has been dominant. Of course, won on the Alp to Zwift a few weeks ago. The world time trial champion, as we get a look at Rigoberto Oran, a real hero in his home country of Colombia. Go, Rigo, go! And he's got his little mascot just on the right-hand side there at a rather jaunty angle. Looks like someone needs to straighten him.
Yeah, it doesn't look very comfortable, but obviously getting prime viewing there on his little on his sofa. Love his little setup as well. As we see Adam Yates looking very comfortable, actually. Very done a lot of Zwifting over the lockdown, Matt. He's currently a level 33 Zwifter, so that just shows how much time he has spent on this this platform. 106,000 meters of elevation he has climbed as well. So very used to these slopes.
He certainly is. He lives at altitude himself. He lives over in Andorra. And I think looking at the kind of what he was actually putting out, another one of the riders, that's a little bit of a disadvantage when riding at altitude. But this group is starting to break up now on the lower slopes of Mont Ventoux on this stage 5 of the inaugural, the first ever, the history-making virtual Tour de France. And a little group has gone clear. But look at the quality in this front group. Woods, Pozzovivo, Vingard, Eddie Dunbar of Ireland and Team Ineos, and Roman Bardet, and 7 seconds has opened up here. This is a cracking little group we have here on the lower slopes of Mont Ventoux. But Mike Woods always keeps getting out of the saddle. A real punchy rider, likes the shorter climbs, but of course has finished in the top 10 in the Vuelta, can climb the high mountains very, very well. Of course, came from running and has adapted very well to racing on the road. A medalist a couple of years ago in the World Road Championships, along with Roman Bardet, when it was, of course, won. But look at that. Great to see. Back to Pozzovivo. I think they're actually at their service course in Lucca in Italy. I do remember, I've been in that place a couple of times. That looks to be as if they're in Lucca, but great support by the team. But good to see Pozzovivo in the mix here.
Yeah, this is fantastic, isn't it? And I think if you just look down the standings a little bit, it is his 3 teammates of Stefan de Bod, Louis Meintjes and Ben O'Connor, who are just patrolling that chasing group, making sure no attacks go off the front, ensure that Domenico Pozzovivo remains in this front group, that they don't chase it, no one chases it back. He is in very, very good company here, but they obviously fancy his chances on today's stage.
Indeed, they're just going through the tunnel here. A good shot there of Eddie Dunbar, another rider who's performed particularly well on Zwift. There's been several races, racing within the team. Team Ineos raced on the Alpe d'Huez. They also raced around Yorkshire as well. And we're commentating on those races. And Dunbar up in the mix on both occasions. And the thing I like about Eddie Dunbar isn't just his tenacious kind of appetite, the way that he aggressively rides races. The fact that he is so versatile. He can ride a time trial well. He can clearly perform well in the high mountains, the kind of intermediate, kind of hilly stages. He can really do it all, and was a former winner at under 23 level, Hannah, of the Amateur Tour of Flanders too.
Yeah, another rider who progressed through the ranks, and as you said, very, very versatile. Packs a good punch as well from a small group. I remember seeing him when he was just around 18, 19, when he was racing for Continental Team NFTO back in the UK racing scene. And even then, you could just see the caliber of the rider that he was going to be. He was mightily impressive. And that this is shown. He's up here riding with the world's best, and having a great ride.
He certainly is. Looks pretty comfortable at the moment, and it is still Mike Woods leading, happy to set the tempo on the lower slopes of this climb. 15 Ks under the wheels, just a smidge under 8 kilometres to the top. Remember, we ride to Chalet Reynard. The appreciative crowd who've made their way here to the lower slopes of the climb, watching the virtual Tour de France go by for the very, very first time. And I tell you what, Mike Woods has not missed a beat. It's almost as if he is riding his own race here. And when you look at the length of this climb, Hannah, and the gradients, if you want to dictate the pace and you feel strong, it's a good thing to do, because there's no kind of breaking of the rhythm. You are completely in control, and it kind of gives you that kind of extra little bit of confidence as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. He's well in control, and he's putting the other riders under pressure, as we just see Bardet struggling a little bit to stay with the pace of Woods. He's 2 seconds, 4 seconds off the pace of Woods now. Oh, that's jumped down to 24 seconds. So really going into the hurt locker, Bardet. But Mike Woods stomping on those pedals. Really in control and very, very confident with obviously the way that his training's going, how he feels physically, and mentally, obviously has the upper hand on everybody else.
Indeed, was clearly very, very focused. He was certainly fresh, but again, it was stage 5, the fateful stage 5 of Paris-Nice, that he had that awful leg break. But he is back. And he is back with a bang. And he's got Domenico Pozzovivo for company and Louis Meintjes. Dunbar has just got dropped. Stefan de Bod. Look at this. The whole NTT team is sitting in the top 5. That is impressive. Sorry, the top 6 with Ben O'Connor there as well. Gavin Mannion, 27 seconds adrift. And Vingard Rasmussen, after looking very, very good, has been dropped. And this is the figure of Warren Barguil, the French road race champion. And there he is, picture in picture, in that rather lovely tricolour jersey. That is a wonderful jersey, isn't it? The French national kit looks great.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? That's a very, very nice national champions kit. They haven't gone wrong on that one.
They certainly haven't. And Warren Barguil won that title last year, of course. We're defending it in the next few weeks. He's a little bit further down the mountain, but still putting out very respectable watts. And obviously wants to respect this race and respect that jersey. And one man certainly paying a lot of respect to this climb, or no respect to the climb, should I say, stamping his authority on it so far quite relentlessly, is Mike Woods of Canada, 33 years of age now, the winner last year of Milan Torino. Won a stage in the past, a wonderful stage, a special stage of La Vuelta back in 2018. Really liked. The more it drifts the course, the more it suits Mike Woods. Second in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and of course third in the World Championships back in 2018. Looking very, very good here, as is Louis Meintjes. Louis Meintjes has really adapted to riding on Zwift so well, but it looks as if, Hannah, Meintjes, the wearer of the yellow jersey, is now losing contact.
Yeah, I just see that gap opening up, but he's responding well to it. He's closing that gap. He's realising that if he doesn't make that effort now to try and get back in contention with Mike Woods and his teammate Domenico Pozzovivo, that he won't be in contention for the stage victory. And he's just yo-yoing off the back of this duo here. As you can see, he puts in a big effort of power. Out the saddle his avatar goes, but starts to reel them back in. He's obviously not as comfortable as Pozzovivo, but still pushing some impressive watts. Mike Woods still stomping on those pedals.
Yeah, there is Woods out of the saddle, and as we mentioned before, NTT are all riding in Lucca. That is their team headquarters. All communicating, and they can obviously see each other, not just in game, they can see each other in real life as well, racked up. They've got a system, lots of fans going, they've got soigneurs there ready to make sure they're kept cool and fully hydrated. So NTT have really gone to town on being organised, and when you look at the way they're packing riders, they're going to score a lot more points towards the general classification. Remember, they lead the virtual Tour de France as we look at Domenico Pozzovivo, 2 bidons. He's not going to go hungry, is he? He's not going to go thirsty. NTT lead with 263 points ahead of Rally Cycling with 188, and then Trek Segafredo heading into stage 5 of the virtual tour with 162. But Domenico Pozzovivo, you did a bit of research before, Hannah, didn't you? Domenico Pozzovivo, another rider who's actually done a lot of riding on Zwift, and he's actually now taken the lead. Domenico Pozzovivo leading from Meintjes, and Woods now dropping back.
Yeah, well, the effort of Woods, obviously, starting to, go against him now as Pozzovivo, injection of pace. As you were just saying, he is very experienced. He's level 18 on Zwift. He's ridden 2 Tour de France in real life, and he's a real, suited to this terrain. Real GC climber. He's been a pro since 2005, so very experienced, on this pro scene. He's had, many victories throughout his career, but just toying with Woods there. Meintjes able to also get back in contention as well, so that's great. He's obviously recovered. You can see the effort as well. Obviously, they're all in their service course in Lucca. You can see the effort from Pozzovivo as well. So, I think when you have that support from your team staff as well and the other riders around you, it really does give you a confidence boost. And I think when you have, people watching you and cheering you on, it's just like in real life, isn't it? It gives you, that extra 1% that you need.
It certainly does. And they are dominating so far. They've got, we just saw that shot of Louis Meintjes. Just to his left is the wearer of the white jersey, Stefan de Bod, and Stefan de Bod sits in 5th position at the moment. There you see it, Eddie Dunbar just behind. So Pozzovivo, Meintjes, both from NTT, de Bod in 4th, and Ben O'Connor in 5th position. So they have 4 of the top 5 places, NTT, at the moment. And if things stay like this, they are going to amass an almost, unassailable lead in the yellow jersey as we move on to the final stage on the Champs-Élysées. And remember, you can kind of mine, you can have a little bit more extra detail if you want to see exactly what these riders are doing, where they are by heading up to Zwift.com/raceview. Look at all the metrics, really drill down and have a look at what these riders are doing. see where they are out on the course as we look at the second group on the road. They're at 47 seconds now. This is Stefan de Bod, Ben O'Connor and Eddie Dunbar. So Stefan de Bod is there, the South African, in that white jersey, leading the white jersey classification, of course. And there he is, picture in picture. To his right, Meintjes. And to Meintjes' right, or to your left as you look at the screen, should I say, is the diminutive figure of Domenico Pozzovivo. Of course, with NTT this year, a really good signing. And they're going to be very happy with this. I think Doug Ryder and the rest of the squad, given their performance so far on this very special day on Mandela Day, they're going to be very happy indeed, Hannah.
Yeah, they certainly are. Having, you know, 3 jerseys on their shoulders, you know, they're having a great tour, and, you know, it's just been consistent from stage 1. And I think that's been, you know, the key aspect to the team, that, you know, every stage that you've been consistent, picking up those points in all the classifications, and you know, touch wood, they've not had an off day yet. So you know, this is the penultimate stage. We want to try and score as many points as possible to go into tomorrow's stage on the Champs-Élysées, continuing with those 3 jerseys on the shoulders. And, you know, if they score well again in the King of the Mountains classification, obviously big points on offer at the top of this climb. You know, could they put themselves in contention with that one as well?
Indeed, still a lot to play for, but they are dominating so far. They lead the green. As we've just talked about, they have 188 points in that classification, ahead of Mitchelton Scott with 96, CCC with 81. It is Israel's startup nation. Dan Martin wearing that jersey, but he is a long way down the mountain. Many minutes now separate these riders. There is your top 10 on the right-hand side. Meintjes, Pozzovivo, Mike Woods, they are all evenly matched, and their heart rates are pretty much matched as well. Louis Meintjes sat at around 178 beats a minute. Pozzovivo, similar in stature, 170 beats a minute. They're moving along at around 18 k's an hour as Mike Woods from EF Education First moves to the front again. Happy to set the pace here. And the gap opening up to group number 2 on the road. And here they are. Well, this is the lead group. De Bod, O'Connor, Dunbar. And then even further back, the top 10 now separated by around 2 minutes. Rigoberto Urán is sat in 12th position as we look a little bit further down the mountain. But Meintjes looks very much in control at the moment. But I think he's going to be a little bit worried about the punch, I think, of the rider in front, Mike Woods. Because Mike Woods, I think when you look at these 2 riders, Mike Woods has more of that kind of explosive power, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does, and you can see that from, you know, the first part of this climb. The thing is, that NTT Pro Cycling they have strength in numbers. You know, it's 2 against 1, and they have the ability to, you know, start to attack Woods and put him under pressure. They'll force him to chase it down, and then, you know, immediately, you know, another rider from NTT Pro Cycling could counter attack. So, you know, they do have the upper hand here, and if they continue as they're going now, you know, it's really going to put Mike Woods under pressure, and it's going to take you know, a great tactic and, you know, physical strength and endurance for Woods to outwit them.
It certainly is. Well, it is Pozzovivo who leans on the front again, opens up a little bit of a gap. It's a 1.5 second gap now for Domenico Pozzovivo. Just under 400 watts for the little climber. 37 years of age now, weighs only 53 kilograms. So if you're looking at power to weight ratio, where to really put the hurt on other slightly heavier riders, it is on the steeper section, and that is what he's doing at the moment. But Woods is equal to it. Woods is only a second behind, but this application of pressure, this surge of power by the Italian, has actually put Louis Meintjes, the yellow jersey, in a little bit of danger as the road really rears up. But look at this, Woods is not giving up. The rider in pink closing the gap to the lead rider in green.
Yeah, this is a bit of a dangerous move, isn't it? The Woods is able to get back on terms with Pozzovivo, but it really has put Louis Meintjes under pressure. He's 3 seconds in arrears now as the road ramps up to 13%. So that's a little attack, an injection of pace from Pozzovivo has done nothing for his teammate Louis Meintjes. But Meintjes wants to try and get back on terms now. You can just see the time gaps on the right-hand side of your screen.
Oh, there we go. Just coming towards this big viaduct here. 4 kilometres to go now on stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France. There is the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey being worn on the shoulders of NTT's Louis Meintjes, the South African, riding for the only South African World Tour team on Mandela Day. This is a very, very special day for that team. You can just see on the back of his shorts there, the little motif in orange, 67. celebrating 67 years of fighting social injustice. So a special in-game logo there, but Mikey's dropping back. He's now at 11 seconds and a further 40 seconds back to Stefan de Bod. So NTT have still got a lot of riders in the mix, but Woods now applies a little bit of pressure, and a feather power-up has been used. The first get my words out. The first feather power-up I've seen being used by Domenico Pozzovivo just to get back in contact. And there's still a couple of more opportunities for these riders to get power-ups on this climb. But the featherweight one, which makes you at 9.5 kilograms lighter, very, very important, not just for attacks, but to responding to attacks and just trying to stay on the wheel, Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, Pozzovivo, doing a great job to stay on the wheel of Woods. These riders have one more opportunity to score a power-up because of the nature of this climb. They've put in 2 extra points, so the next one will come at 20.3 kilometers of racing completed. So obviously, Pozzovivo using that feather power up to his advantage there, just to try and stay on the wheel of Woods. I mean, this is really impressive from the Canadian rider, and he puts out 7.5 watts per kilogram. And Pozzovivo doing, is having a hard time trying to stay in contact.
He is. Well, he doesn't want to go too deep, and that's the thing. You want to try and stay on the wheel. There's a tiny little shake of the head, a little flick of the head there. 352 watts for Pozzovivo. He is the lighter rider. The Canadian Woods weighs in at 64 kgs. Domenico Pozzovivo, 53 kgs. But he can't put out the same power. Look at this, 100 more watts. Woods senses. He can smell blood in the water like a Canadian shark. He stamps on the pedals and he opens up the gap now. 6 seconds between Woods and Domenico Pozzovivo. What a comeback this would be after that awful injury at the start of the year. But we still have 3 kilometres to go. And Pozzovivo, he's a man of experience, ridden multiple Grand Tours. He knows how to pace himself. It's not quite over yet.
No, it's not, and as we saw earlier, he has got time to react to Woods' effort, but he's got to ride within himself now. But I'm not sure, if that attack around 2 kilometres ago is really paying dividends against Pozzovivo. It was a real big effort when he attacked, and Woods, lost a few seconds, but he was able to claw his way back. But it's paying against Pozzovivo now. Woods 8 seconds ahead.
Well, 8 seconds, the gap is opening up as we just pass over. You can see the river to the right and the left-hand side. Really beautiful attention to detail rendered by the engineers in-game. Remember, we are making history here. It's been a very difficult year for everybody in the world, cycling, of course, included. We will have a real Tour de France in September, and normally in July we would be racing in the roads of France, but we've got this. We've got the first ever virtual Tour de France. We're on stage 5. Tomorrow we hit the Champs-Élysées for the grand finale. But here we are racing on one of the most iconic climbs in the world. It is something quite stark. It's like a lunar landscape up there. We don't go to the very top. We go to Chalet Reynard. That is where the finish line is, as we look again at Domenico Pozzovivo, the little Italian riding for NTT. But if you fancy riding on this climb, it is pretty special, and it's also very, very brutal. You can do so. Head over to Zwift.com/events and enter the L'Étape de Tour, a virtual, and you can ride to the very top. So we'll go past Chalet Reynard, and you've got another 8Ks to go. So best of luck with that, but I urge you to do it. Many, many people have been riding the Tour of the L'Étape Virtuelle just to replicate what these riders are doing. But as I've been chatting, Hannah, the gap nearly 10 seconds now to Mike Woods, who is looking mightily strong now.
Yeah, he is, and just looking at his stats as well, his watts per kilogram are higher than Pozzovivo's as well. So constantly eking out half a second here and there on the Italian rider. But Mikey's also has fully dropped out of contention. He's 29 seconds in arrears now. So the early attacks really have made these 2 riders from NTT Pro Cycling suffer. I mean, they did have the upper hand earlier on. Mike Woods dropping that feather power up as well, so making the benefit of the 9.5 kilogram watts per kilogram makes you lighter. So 15 seconds of that, he getting every advantage as possible over Pozzovivo.
Definitely a good use of the power up. That is the one you want on this. Well, any power up is helpful. Maybe not the invisibility one. That's one that Michael Woods doesn't need at the moment, that is for sure. But he did have the one that everybody wants on a climb. He dropped it on one of the steeper gradients. That's where you're going to get most benefit in relation to the way physics works. Of course, the lighter you are and the steeper the gradient, the more benefit there is. There's no point in dropping a featherweight power up on a kind of 5 or 6% bit of gradient if you can use it on an 8 or a 10 or an even 13. But he's just got under 2 kilometres to go now, and he's looking very, very good. The Canadian riding for EF Pro Cycling, riding on his virtual Cannondale there, has a 14-second advantage over Domenico Pozzovivo from NTT. And there, for the first time, you can just see all of the riders here, all 16 teams, 62 riders represented for some of the biggest World Tour riders in the world. So the World Tour teams, should I say. And that lovely mosaic of picture-in-picture. We can just see Ben O'Connor second from top on the right-hand side as we look at Nico Roach. Here's the rider actually that holds the Strava record for this climb. He did a very, very strong recon the other day. 53 minutes and 27 seconds, but I think that's going to change today, looking at the stats of Mike Woods. But also, Sunweb on a bit of a training camp. That's just next to their team bus. But Roach looking good. And a bit further down the mountain, we get a little picture there of Adam Yates just riding up this climb, just tapping out that little rhythm and almost like training now.
Yeah, Yates dropped out of contention, just riding his way up this climb.
Yeah, just having a little bit of a glance at the camera there. It looks a little bit forlorn, doesn't he?
He does
Julian
look.
Alaphilippe there. A little bit forlorn. But Julian Alaphilippe, it's great to see him just even line up for this race. But at this time of year, many teams midway through training camps, altitude camps. It's a little bit of a disadvantage, to say the least, when you're riding at 2,000 metres. But Julian Alaphilippe mopping his brow, looking as cool as ever. I can't wait to see him back in the mix when we start racing in a few weeks' time. But look at this performance here. Mike Woods continues to press on out in front, still putting out Hannah 7.1 watts a kilogram, leaning on the pedals, he's almost out of the saddle more than he is in the saddle. Again, when he sits back down in the saddle, changes to a lower gear, flicks the pedals round, then when he gets out of the saddle, gears up to put more torque through the pedal. And that means you kind of use different kind of muscle groups, allowing other muscle groups to kind of rest. A really interesting technique we're seeing from Michael Woods here.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He only spends around 10 seconds, in the saddle, then he's straight back out, stomping on those pedals. And it's obviously, a position that actually, he prefers, and he feels that, riding that way on a turbo trainer, a static turbo trainer, that, he can get the most power out of himself, and then that really is showing. He's constantly taking a second out of Pozzovivo, but this is really impressive by Woods. His watts per kilogram don't drop under 7 watts per kilo, so it very, very impressive. And as you just see in the bottom left of your screen, he does win the Prix de la Combatif. It's very well deserved, I would say, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. The Prix de la Combatif, the most aggressive rider. That award gone to Michael Woods. He's gone under the Flamme Rouge. He's going to be buoyed by that as well. He knows the gap. He sees that he's opened up a few more seconds as well. It was hovering at around 14 seconds. And I tell you what, Domenico Pozzovivo was not giving up. Pozzovivo still putting out 7.2 watts a kilo. Actually putting up more watts a kilo than Mike Woods at the moment. But that can just depend on where a rider is on the climb. Generally, when the road pitches up and you've got a steeper gradient, it's kind of easier to actually put out more power. Sometimes you have to back off a little bit. But Woods looking remarkably strong. And then we have third on the road at the moment is the yellow jersey wearer, Louis Meintjes. Then we have Stefan Dubod and then Gavin Manion. So 3 riders from the top 4 all riding together at their service course in Lucca in Italy. And then we have Ben O'Connor also from that squad too. So they have all 4 of their riders in the top 7, which is very, very important on this Mandela Day. And there's another shot of Domenico Pozzovivo, the veteran rider now, loves the climbs, a former winner of a stage of the Giro d'Italia back in 2012, won the overall in the Giro del Trentino, twice 5th overall in the Giro d'Italia. Remarkably decorated rider, and will be reveling on this sort of terrain, but no doubt about who is going to win this stage. An amazing ride here, Hannah, for Mike Woods.
Yeah, this is tremendous. I mean, he put up with the attacks from NTT Pro Cycling. He overhauled them. He attacked them, and he's been strong from the lower slopes of this climb up to Chalet Reynard. It's going to be a fantastic victory for him. And as you mentioned before, great to see him coming back from that horrendous injury. And look, he's still out of the saddle. Look at the watts and the positioning on the bike of Mike Woods. This is so impressive. He's going to relish this one.
He is last few metres now for Mike Woods of Canada and EF Pro Cycling. Look at that. This is going to be a big moment of joy. It is Mike Woods who has absolutely dominated this. He takes the victory en Mont Ventoux at Chalet Reynard. Mike Woods of EF Pro Cycling and Canada takes a win in quite dominant fashion. Absolutely empties the tank. Didn't ease up at all. Powered across the line. That's an important win for Mike Woods on a personal level and for the team. And a wonderful ride too here for Domenico Pozzovivo from Italy. Second place for him, scoring more points towards their team. A pat on the back there for Doug Ryder, the team principal. Solid performance by NTT. And Louis Meikes should be rolling across the line very shortly as well. And here he is, the man in yellow. Podium position for him today. He has been riding very, very well during lockdown on Zwift. Meikes takes third place for an NTT. 28 seconds, and counting should I say, 51 seconds in fact behind. Meikes rolls across the line, and the next rider on the road just to his left, or on our right on the screen, is Stefan de Bod of South Africa, who's well over a minute behind, but another dominant performance from NTT Pro Cycling. As we see Stefan de Bod here in white, Hannah, just about to roll across the line.
Yeah, this is all round. Just look at the effort from Stefan de Bod as he sprints to the finish line. He's in no feat of getting caught by anyone, but great effort from the team of NTT Pro Cycling so far. Second, third, and fourth on the stage. And it looks like Ben O'Connor will still finish in the top 10 as well. But just look at the effort that it takes out of you, Matt. It really is a long drag, a really long climb up there. 14 kilometres of climbing on today's stage. And, all the staff and riders happy.
Yep, all the staff and riders happy. But as you said, you correctly pointed out, that was absolutely brutal. And the way that I don't think even Mike Woods allowed himself to enjoy the finishing straight. He could have eased up and kind of cruised across the line, but he gave it everything, and that is going to infuse him with so much self-belief. Not that we ever doubted the belief of Mike Woods. I'm going to mention it again, that awful accident that almost ended his career. He is one of the finest climbers in the world, and he has proved it today. And a solid performance here by Gavin Mannion, the American, riding in no socks, controversially. We'll have to see what the commissaires say about that. But hopefully they will turn a blind eye. But Eddie Dunbar of Ireland and Team Ineos, the first rider from Ineos to cross the line. Eddie Dunbar always gives it his all. Whatever race he rides in the real world or on Zwift, he always gives it 100%. Great performance by the Irishman, Hannah.
Yeah, brilliant performance by Eddie here. And as you said, first rider from Team Ineos to cross the line. Real solid performance. They've had a lot of racing recently throughout the lockdown on Zwift. And great to see him get a brilliant result. We're just about to see Ben O'Connor cross the line as well. So he should solidify his 7th place on today's stage. But real dominant performance from Michael Woods and NTT Pro Cycling.
Yep, NTT bossing the team classification as we look a little bit further down. So a couple more riders are coming to the top 10. I think Ben O'Connor has crossed the line in 7th, but Romain Bardet looking very, very good. The first Frenchman riding on home soil on Mont Ventoux. He knows this area very, very well indeed. Numerous occasions he's raced in the Tour up Mont Ventoux to Chalet Reynard. And good to see Bardet racing aggressively here, out of the saddle, really using this as a really good workout, as well as honouring the virtual Tour de France and his team. He affords a little bit of a smile as well, does Bardet. I think we should see him rolling across the line, but that's a good 8th place position for Romain Bardet. And here he is, just almost coming to a standstill as he crosses the line there. The appreciative crowd. A few whistles there for Romain Bardet for our virtual crowd, but a great ride. And just behind him, young Carlos Rodriguez of Spain and Team Ineos. But good to see Bardet racing aggressively there.
Yeah, I love this. That all riders that as we said before, that we would normally be seeing, on these mountaintop finishers, that you're really getting involved in this virtual Tour de France and giving it, their all. It's not long until the road season gets underway in real life. So this is great for them to get back into that feel of racing and get themselves back into that mindset.
Well, this is a great ride by Janssens. So Janssens here, just about to cross the line for Alpecin Fenix. It's a top 10 performance by him, but importantly, as he finishes in the top 10, there's a few more points on offer towards the King of the Mountains classification. He gets 2 more points, so a solid ride by him. Absolutely empties the tank, but he's a long way down on the winner. 4 minutes and 41.14 seconds behind, and that just shows how tough this climb is. And the next rider on the road, another rider from EF, and that is Rigoberto Urán. Well, Rigo always gives his all. He's performed very, very well in this virtual Tour de France in his rather luxurious, what is that, his front room? Or is that his home office? Or is that a combination of the two? It looks like a very posh pain cave for Rigoberto there.
Yeah, very nice, isn't it? As you said, very posh. I can't tell it. Looking in the background, it's almost like a trophy room as well. So gotten all his victories on show, and I love this little. Is it a cow? A devil? Not sure. Watching behind. A bull. There we go.
I think they can be purchased at the Go Rigo Go store. There you go. Look at it. Forever the showman, and he's going to be happy. 11th place from him. And obviously the 11 is a 1 and a 1, and they've already got a 1 because they've got the first rider across the line. So great, a rather symmetrical performance there from Cannondale, or from EF Education first. And he gives, well, that's a bit strange. It's a family show, but no, he's given him a big hug. He's gone very, very deep there, has Rigoberto Urán. But what a showman. He is a real showman as we look at Will Barton.
Yeah, ever the entertainer, hey? I mean, what a show. You've just crested the Chalet Reynard and, straight off to hug your mannequin.
Indeed. Well, do you know what? The virtual Tour de France is making history, and I think Rigoberto Urán made history there. We've never seen anybody do that at the end of a bicycle race, in real life or on Zwift. So thank you, Rigo. You are a trailblazer as ever, as we look at the riders just clawing their way up to a rather appreciative crowd here. Vincent crosses the line. That's Leo Vincent, the French rider for Groupama FDJ. Lopez Perez of Trek Segafredo. The riders are now coming thick and fast. Jan Bakelins has finished. Rowan Dennis has finished as well. He finished a solid 15th. Nico Roach is the next rider on the road. And there he is, right on cue. And he crosses the line, and look at that. That just shows that's a real indication of how seriously he's taken it and how deep he's gone and how much this climb has taken out of these riders across the board in both the men's and the women's race, Anna.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that's how you'd see riders in real life as well when they finish at the top of Mont Ventoux or, as in this case, Chalet Reynard. The effort put in to stay in contention and to put in to be in this race. It's very, very hard, and especially, if you're on a training camp as well, whether you're at altitude or not, it makes it all very difficult.
That was Dan Martin, who was wearing the virtual polka dot jersey heading into this stage. And we'll get the points tally at the end for you. But there were no Israel Cycling Academy riders in the top 10 today. They didn't score any points at the top of the climb today. And that was Warren Barguil, the French favourite. Of course, still on the climb here of Mont Ventoux. But there is confirmation of the top 10 on this stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France. La Reine, the queen stage of this race, to Chalet Reynard. And look at the time, 46 minutes and 3 seconds. That is quite astonishing. Mike Woods takes the win, 18 seconds in front of Domenico Pozzovivo of Italy and NTT. And then we have a mini flotilla of riders of MTT. Louis Meintjes, who was wearing yellow today, at 50 seconds. Stefan de Bod, his fellow South African, in 4th. Then a very solid performance for Gavin Mannion from Team Rally in 5th at 2:15. Eddie Dunbar in 6th for Ineos and Ireland at 2:40. And then the rest of the riders follow behind. It was O'Connor, Bardet, or Rodriguez just behind there. That was the top 10. That is the picture of Didi the Devil, rendered beautifully, floating quite gracefully. I think he's looking a bit more graceful than we normally see hopping up the side of the road. I kind of prefer that version of Didi the Devil. As you look at the assembled crowd, still going wild. That was a great stage. I mean, and what a performance Hannah, by Mike Woods. A real comeback for him. He's raced very well on Zwift already. He's clearly got himself into great form, and an important win for him and his team as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm delighted to see him take the victory there. You know, it was dominant. He was in control the whole time. You know, even when NTT Pro Cycling, Pozzovivo started attacking him, he was able to reel him back in. And you know, I think just showing his the way he was riding on the turbo as well. You know, he had a real unusual style that he was just out the saddle. You know, constantly. He'd sit back down in the saddle for 10 seconds, and wanting to get the most out of the power that he could push, and it obviously paid off in the end. He had the feather power up towards the end as well, so eked out a few more seconds, as we hear from the race winner.
Michael Woods, congratulations, winner of stage 5 of the virtual Tour de France on the virtual Mont Ventoux to Chalet Reynard. How important was it for you as a team to get a victory in this virtual Tour de France?
Certainly very important. This is a big event for us. Zwift's a great platform, and we wanted to get a win. Finally, we got one.
Well, we were watching you on your camera the entire time on that climb. Pozzovivo gave you a good run for your money, didn't he? Did you think at any time that you couldn't get away from him?
Oh yeah, certainly, especially Louis Menchis as well. Both Pozzovivo and Louis Menchis are super strong riders, and normally in a race you can look them in the eye and see how they're doing, how they're feeling. Instead, I could just see the watts per kilo on the side, and I just kept on trying to see when they would crack, hoping they'd crack a lot earlier than they did. But fortunately, I was able to keep it going.
Yeah, well, you finally managed to crack them, which was great. You've obviously rehabilitated during the lockdown period, and now we're getting towards racing. Physically, in terms of an effort, how tough is this? Just to give the fans a sense of what sort of exertion you're putting out, albeit on a very short stage.
Yeah, I think Zwift racing is certainly a lot more sustained effort, a lot more of a sustained effort. I think that's one of the reasons why I have success at it, just because it is quite similar to running. I know Freddie Ovett mentioned this a few days ago, got in a bit of a tiff with JV over this, but my team boss. But I actually agree with my team boss in this, that it is a lot more similar to running, and it's just a harder, higher sustained effort for a long period of time. And I can stand basically the entire time on the Zwift profile on the trainer, unlike in real life where I have to sit and aerodynamics impacts you for standing up. So if you probably saw me on the video, I was standing the entire time and able to keep the watts down, the power up, and just stand my way, run my way on the bike, basically.
Well, we enjoyed watching you. Final question then, Michael. We're getting now to the start of what we hope will be a great season, albeit late, and so many troubles we've had across the world. What are we expecting from you? What program are we going to see from you, and what are your hopes for this restart of the season?
Well, I'm starting the season off in Strade Bianche. It'll be my first time doing that race. Just preparation for what is the first big X mark on the calendar for me, Lombardia. I love that race. Really important monument to me. Hopefully I can do well.
Well, Michael, congratulations on your Stage 5 victory on the virtual Tour de France. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you on the road very soon.
Thanks for having me.
Well, always great to hear from Mike Woods. He is a lovely chap, a very, very likeable character, and wonderful to see him come back. And interesting kind of in-depth analysis of the technique that he was using. A lot of the time, as we noticed, Hannah, he is out of the saddle a lot of the time, putting a lot of torque through the bike, only occasionally sitting down. And when you look at him on steep climbs in real life and the way that he does race, obviously sits down a lot more on the shallower climbs, but really does use that kind of power, a very distinctive style. And he used it to good effect, didn't he? I would dwell on that in just a few moments' time. This is the situation at the head of affairs. The general classification looks like this, heading into stage 6, the final stage on the Champs-Élysées, NTT. Well, running away with the virtual Tour de France, quite literally here, 391 points to the good. They are in front still of Rally Cycling with 291. So, well, they're in a really dominant place, but they, again, very much like Team Tibco, Hannah, they're stacking the riders up there and just performing very, very consistently indeed. I'll hold your thoughts just there. This is the situation in the green jersey classification. NTT again, they will head into the final stage in the lead there. 222 points ahead of Mitchelton Scott with 100. So NTT really amassing a lot of points today, with 4 riders, of course, finishing in at the top 7 positions. That was Menkes de Bod, Pozzovivo, and of course Ben O'Connor. And next up will be the King of the Mountains. There's going to be a little bit of movement there, and this classification will be finished. There's no King of the Mountains points on offer on the Champs-Élysées. So the winners of the polka dot jersey for the first ever virtual Tour de France is NTT. Well, they did have 4 riders in the top 10. It was the only first category climb of the Tour. So NTT, runaway winners of the King of the Mountains classification as well. They will wear the polka dots on the Champs-Élysées tomorrow. Second place goes to EF Pro Cycling, courtesy of a lot of points mopped up by Mike Woods and his performance. Israel Startup Nation dropped from 1st to 3rd place. So the polka dot's unassailable. Now we're just getting confirmation through that. It does appear that NTT cannot be beaten in the yellow jersey classification. There simply are not enough points on offer. But that, I don't think, is going to detract from what is going to be an absolutely wonderful stage. Of course, the Champs-Élysées awaits. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Hannah, just a couple of very quick words from you before we wrap today.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen fireworks on this climb. Once again, both the men's and women's race has provided brilliant racing and entertainment. And I think, NTT Pro Cycling taking all important points towards all the classifications, as we just see a recap of the stage. It's an important day for them on Mandela Day. And tomorrow's going to be another a brilliant final stage.
Well, thanks very much indeed for watching. Join us again at 1400 BST for the final stage of the Tour de France Virtual. It's the Champs-Élysées. It's going to be amazing. Thanks for watching from me, Matt Stevens, and Hannah Walker. It's goodbye. Join us tomorrow.